Walk with me through the cellar door. A storm is coming, Francis. A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Welcome to another Cellar Door Skeptics. I don't know why it doesn't want to make my face bigger. Fucking technology, I tell you. Oh, it's good to be back. I think the hosts all feel a little bit better. Hannah's gotten over his COVID. My infection is finally gone. My camera must have a virus, I guess, because it keeps flashing on me, but who knows? So the nice thing is that we are all back, though, and we have an amazing episode planned, and it's kind of weird because we've been trying to stay away from some current events, but, like, I don't know, like, until Trump leaves, I don't know what to say, because, like, between him and his compadres, it's just insane. Like, some of the things that are going on, like, within 2 days, 3 days of each other, we have a guy named Lynn Wood who has decided that Mike Pence is working with Democrats to essentially remove Trump from office so that in 4 years, he's guaranteed a seat and he'll win. And he's, like, going on these rants about how Mike Pence is going to take over for, you know, Trump in 4 years. The Democrats are just going to handle the election like they did this election. And this dude's just a lawyer. Now, the funny thing is this guy's a lawyer for the Ramsey family way back in the day. If you remember the whole John Benet Ramsey case, this dude was a lawyer for them, and now was a lawyer for Trump. Anyway, then he goes on a whole nother tangent talking about how he has evidence of sex cults and blackmail. And it's just crazy. And it's crazy. And then Trump calls Georgia. And then I'm getting messages from conservative friends essentially asking me what it will take to change my mind about Biden winning and never voting Democrat again. And it's like, what? Why would you even ask me that? Like, I'm like, okay, conservative question of the week. You know, but some of the crazy things that are just happening right now is mind-boggling. And then on top of that, we have Mitch McConnell, the turtle, who wants to give everybody $2,000 now, miraculously, but you got to repeal Section 230. Like, wait a minute. How does this have ties to you? And, like, why do you all of a sudden want to give out more money that you refused to give out last week? It makes no sense to me. So we had to actually, like, cover some current events because there's just too much goody stuff. And it's a new year, and I feel excited, and I feel happy. And with that, let's bring on Buddy the Elf and Hanna the Lumberjack. How are you tonight, sirs?
Well, a little short, apparently. I think I'm the tallest guy on the show, and apparently I'm the elf. I feel like the dwarf from Avengers.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
All right, fair enough. You got me beat there.
Yeah.
I'm only 5'11", so
That works.
the way to derail the show there, Mr. Elf. Like, have you ever seen the movie Elf? Actually seen it?
Yeah.
Every year I watch that movie. That's the one, like, just it. Every year it comes back. My wife likes it. We watch it at least once every holiday season.
Well, there you go.
I haven't
Maple
had to
syrup
watch
on your spaghetti.
I
I
haven't.
will try it.
I mean, it doesn't sound terrible.
You're from Canada. Why would you not try it?
The M&Ms.
Like, you guys drink maple syrup in your coffee. You drink it on your pancakes. You drink it on your steak. I went there one time.
It's like being Irish with
Wu-Tang, and it had fucking maple syrup on it. I'm dead serious. I swear to God.
Well, it depends on where you are in Canada, because if you talk to any Quebecois, the only real maple syrup comes from Quebec. So, you know, I don't know if that factors in or anything, but
you can be British and put baked beans and gravy on everything.
That's even weirder. I like gravy,
no
but
wonder everybody like went to war with the British at some point in history. Like, that's just a violation. That's disgusting.
Now hold on though. Don't Canadians put gravy on everything?
Shut
mean,
the
isn't
hell
that a
up. That's
thing, too?
poutine. That's fries and gravy, and it's got cheese. It's delicious.
But do you not put gravy in other things, or is maple syrup your jam?
Maple syrup is just our Jimmy Jam.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I could be wrong. I just thought, I don't know. I
It
don't
takes
know.
a big man to
We're
admit that,
spending
though.
too much time on having a conversation with Keith about what he puts maple syrup on. We could just do an after show where Keith eats different things with maple syrup on it. We could do that.
Well, I mean, you could do what the British do. So what brought up my thought is they put baked beans on toast for breakfast sometimes.
Yeah.
I
don't
hate you.
eat beans, and I'm not British enough, I guess.
Don't get me wrong. As a kid, I remember I loved because of course I grew up rather not well off, and one thing that my dad would cook for dinner was like he would just grab like the pork and beans, like the Heinz can that you can get at the grocery store, and cut up hot dogs, put them in that, and that was dinner.
It is good.
So it was
I'm not gonna
tasty.
say it's not good.
Was tasty, just not exactly healthy.
I don't know, but I guess I never was subjected to the baked beans phenomena. But I mean, we had Kool-Aid without sugar in it before, more than one time. I don't know if it's because my mother could never figure out where her sugar was or how to keep sugar in the house. But we had that. And like when we went to my aunt's house, it was whatever they had extra of, whatever was on sale, which is funny because I do similar thing when I grocery shop. If it's like, if we walk by the steak and the steak's 50% off, you buy it. It's not even a question. But if I walk by the sausage and sausage is full price, not going to pay for it. Oh, that chicken over there. Hey, that chicken is sure as hell on sale for $1 a pound. We're buying that. Come on, folks. You gotta live within your means. And it's sad because even if I make
You gotta live within your beans.
Not within your we don't eat beans. I can't get any of my kids to eat beans. Even if I wanted to,
Oh my god.
they will not eat the beans. Nobody will eat the beans. Like
Oh.
I think they're okay, but they don't do good things to my body personally. And so
Yeah.
and I don't like baked beans. I think baked beans are disgusting and ridiculous. Give me real beans.
What about
okay,
refried? You like your refried beans? You like them
No,
twice
I don't
fried?
like refried beans either.
Oh my god,
Welcome
yes.
to the bean podcast, gentlemen.
Tonight's
There's a
beans
board game
are
called that.
Tonight, lizards, Mitch McConnell, and beans.
Hey, it's all
I'm
a
sorry,
conspiracy
yes?
theory here, folks.
yes. Beans?
It is. I don't know. And it's just funny. I get your point. You know, we could have beans and conversations around those and
God, I'm
all
getting
of that.
hungry now.
You
But there's
should
so
be
much
hungry.
better things to talk about right now. so much-
Yeah, I don't
so
know
much
though.
more.
I mean, we have
So much more.
discussions about Trump, right? You know, like, do we really want to talk about Trump? Do you want to know what happened in the phone call? Did anybody? How about this? Let's start.
I
with
listened
this.
to it. I
I've heard
listened
a
to
little
it.
bit of it.
Did you
Oh
listen
my
to the
God.
whole thing all the way through?
Not the whole thing. Good long. It's an hour long, dude.
Dude,
didn't.
I'm not
What do you
I'm
have
not
to do
like
better at work?
I'm not curled up drooling in a corner. I did not listen to all of it.
You know.
I
I
did
just
not
listened to
wanna
the parts where
I didn't
I
want to
just-
hurry car in my brain cells.
I just listened to the parts where he used gangster linguistics to allude to terrible things happening to certain people and their beautiful, beautiful daughter.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's funny listening to him try to be a tough guy because he's not a tough guy. He just thinks he is, and it's laughable because I'm like, dude, you couldn't even do it in a movie. Like you'd be laughed off set. Come on, this is a joke, right? Right? We're done with 2020, right?
I don't know. Like, and so here's the thing. I did listen to the whole thing today, and maybe it's just because I didn't have as many meetings and I had nothing better to do but put it on the background, right? Like I can listen to it while I'm working. I can listen to it while I'm doing dishes, laundry, whatever, cooking dinner, you know. But what was funny is if you listen to it, he spends, I think it was 6 minutes. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he spent 6 minutes, and you can see this is a transcript of the whole thing, but he spent 6 minutes going over what he feels was a failure, how he didn't lose the state, how he's going to win, that there was massive voter fraud. I mean, look, just thousands. Ballots were burned. I think Detroit's a good example. I don't know. Over 200,000 votes. I mean, we can just paraphrase him, but I literally think he spent almost 6 to 7 minutes of nonstop discussion. That's it.
Oh, well, one of the things that like what I mentioned earlier is like everything that he does. If you listen to the way he talks, people make the illusion to like the mobster movies, the gangsters. You know, like he's like the best example is like if a mob boss hears that a restaurant is doing really, really well, right? And everybody in the town knows, all the gangsters know, there's like this restaurant's doing great. It's a startup restaurant. It's in the city, and so this some leader of some gang or whatever would walk in there and hey, I'd like to talk to the owner or whatever, and would say, man, this place is really nice. It'd be awfully terrible if something really bad happened here. So like what that's called, it's called a Gricean implicature, and basically what it is it's an implied threat that you do without actually saying anything specific to what you'd be doing. And there's it's a whole theory of linguistics, and it's really like an effective tool, and it's something that people study. There's an awesome commentary on Reddit where like this person breaks it down in Trump's use of implicature is like it's been noticed by experts in language, noticed by people who actually study the way people talk, and they've been picking this out, and people that have been analyzing the way in which he speaks and the things that he says and what he does. And he's used to doing that. It's a thing that people do that have either broad power or they have financial power, and they're used to bullying people. Essentially, it's just like threatening, just destroying you in lawsuits, but burying you under whatever threats of bullying power he has. And like the multiple examples throughout this story, you have it highlighted right now. Her lovely daughter, a young lady, I'm sure. But so basically what he's talking about is like this, the redacted name of the woman that they were talking about, and like it'd be terrible if something horrible happened to her. Like holy, you know what I mean? Like it's just that kind of insinuation and implication is really, really, really frightening.
It's disgusting. And you know what the worst part about that whole thing is after he repeats all this stuff, like towards the end you could tell he's getting desperate. And it's funny because I wanted to talk a little bit. We don't have to spend a long time on it, but I wanted to talk just a tiny bit because people are saying he should be impeached now. And I'm saying, well, hold on, folks. Like, for fuck's sake, we're only 20 days, not even 20 days away anymore. Do we really want to go through a process? Do we want to spend any more taxpayer money? What good is this going to fucking do? I mean, I personally, after listening to it, do not personally feel he actually violated any laws. I think that he either is smart enough to skirt around those or was lucky enough to skirt around some of the implications. Because people are claiming this is like up the road to Nixon. And it's like, I need, like right there.
Well, Nixon's stuff was basically like this too. It's political. He made it a politically bad decision. But Nixon himself, like aside from Gerald Ford's pardon, I mean, there's very little chance that he would have actually been implicated in crime and had to deal with that. Trump in the same boat with this here. Like, there's very little chance that he would. Well, I know, but basically what they're saying is that like if he wouldn't be implicated in actually in a crime here, like he's using his broad power and political base to like it's still just it's language, it's thought policing. If you would say that Trump by saying this is implicating that he would do something, whatever. I don't think this would stand up in a court case, and that's. Yeah. You know what I mean? Exactly. And so like in the end, it's a political thing. He did. Trump and Nixon both should have been removed for political reasons, but I don't understand particularly why in our country we've lost the appetite for that kind of ethical and moral fortitude. But in the end, like this is terrible, and this is obviously the clearest picture of the worst ethical behavior of any president in the United States history. I mean, bar none. But at this point, like you said, 20 days out, like there's no appetite in the Democrats besides really, really, really far left Democrats to go through a process like that right now. Like we just want to streamline,
just move on,
get them out.
Now I do think we could go back to that mafia tactic, right? Like if you go to the end, I mean, well, I don't know this. So I'll be honest, it is a good listen in terms of if you want comedic relief and if you want to just sit there and go, ugh, why would you say these things?
Sweet comedic relief.
It's comedic relief. I think it is. But one of the big things that they went through, though, especially towards the end, is he was talking quite a bit about not only the votes he needs and how he should never have lost, but he wants them to recertify and reopen and let signature verification in under 2 days.
Just say you're recalculating. That's all.
Yep. And so, that for me, that's the big thing, right? Is that he's going to actually, the bullying aspect, even though this is kind of bullish, it's really the end of the call where he's like, why won't you just do this? Why are you not doing this? When will you do this? It's an injustice. You're going to lose votes. And like,
he's threatening them with respect.
We think we already lost them, Trump.
Yeah.
You haven't done us a service.
It's so pathetic though to hear, like, and it is quite obvious the final cries of a sad man who knows he can't win. So he's just this is literally the last thing that he thinks he can do to try to hedge the bets in his favor and get his way. He's so used to just being, as long as I can be the most annoying and troublesome and difficult person ever, I'll just keep getting what I want. I'm just going to keep doing that. And then, of course, we've all seen, I mean, you guys have kids, so you've seen the kids when they try to, like, push each other into doing things. Well, I just don't understand why you won't do what I want. It's really just a childish tantrum, and it's embarrassing. If I were a conservative, I would look at this and be like, yeah, I hate you, and you don't represent me. Please leave now. Please stop.
This just reeks of desperation. Like, you can
totally
smell it. Like, you almost taste it. Like,
It's kind of like a guy who gets rejected on social media, and when the girl won't sleep with him after, he sends the dick pic, 2 messages in. Oh, you're just a whore anyways. It's kind of like where Trump's at, really.
I know. It's like, it makes you really, like, this level of, I mean, just blatant. Just think about it. If this hadn't, so like this conversation after the Lindsey Graham threats to the Secretary of State, and the guy who's in charge of all the election coordination or whatever, like, they were like, Trump's calling us. He called him 18 times before they answered the call, which means they were setting up the recording software. like the fact that they recorded this and they put it out as a part of the president's party, they were like, this is going to be bad. And I mean, I just love the transparency. I mean, I this is the one thing that, if anything good comes out of this, is the fact that there are some Republicans who are making the right moral choice here. There's a few of them that are really, really bad. But like these guys here, surprisingly, Kemp made the right decision too. He actually started going against Trump. But like, these guys who recorded this and released this to the Washington Post, I mean, I have to take my hats off to them. I have to give them the respect that they did this, because this is one of the most enlightening and most important things that will ever come out of the entire presidency, is that this clarification here and this transparency. This is stunning. It's unbelievable, and it's so useful and helpful for the people.
When I think, this right here says it, and this is what they're arguing about. They're saying, you aren't giving us information. You won't give us. We're telling you you're wrong. And the Secretary of State say, like, stop. We gave you what you're entitled to. You're not entitled to the rest of it. Go fuck yourself. Get the fuck out of the way. That's the thing. Like, why not?
He tells him his data is wrong. Like, specifically, he says your data is wrong to the president of the United States. I don't know. It's just, I mean, I've never seen something like the Nixon tapes too. It sounds like someone dragging a face over rocks. Like, you can barely understand it. It was so bad. This is the clearest. This is crystal clear, man. It is crystal clear. You can hear Trump's gravelly grumpiness, the fact that they just keep saying no, short and concise, and you just like, he's just getting more and more frustrated.
All I can see is just that one, the Bugs Bunny meme where he's just like, no.
Yeah. And then, here it is, like, Trump saying, I don't care who it is. I don't want to know. Just you guys take care of it. It's like, that's a typical, high-level CEO thing, saying, this is what I want.
Plausible
Figure out how you're going to get
ability.
it for me. That's what it is. And, like here, right here, they're saying if it's a privacy issue, can you just deputize the lawyers? And so they will not admit they're going to do that. And I have not seen anything today. This is from Saturday. I have not seen anything that says they're going to do that. So this did not happen on Trump's timeline, which I didn't do the research, honestly, to know what the law is that won't let them see anything. And I guess I could have done that, and that probably would be valuable to know. But, like, they're saying, fine, we'll talk to your lawyers. I can promise you there are more of that. But at the same time, I think it's important that we move ahead and go expeditiously with this. And they're like, okay, I'll get with the lawyer who's representing us in the case and see what we can get together. That's their
But what
answer.
What he wants, like they talked earlier about the deputization, essentially what that is, that's a presidential decree, or, him announcing or saying that these lawyers have power from the executive branch and they're allowed to see something, whatever it is, and they represent the executive branch and they are allowed to see this. But what the problem is, there's a direct line of power. There's a money, a follow the money. There is a legal line connecting Trump to those lawyers, to whatever they see. And if they come back and say they saw something that isn't true, isn't real, Trump is directly associated with that. What he wants, and what he has always wanted, what he did with Michael Cohen, what he's done with everybody who's been his fixers over the years, he wants to be able to say, make this happen, right? And he wants them to do whatever, however it gets done, and he doesn't need to know exactly how it got done. That way he can say, I don't know how much money Cohen gave Stormy Daniels. I don't know anything about that. That was all him. That wasn't me. I didn't do anything. And so, like, essentially he wants as the president, he wants to be able to say, I'm the president, make this happen. But I am not telling you to make this happen. I'm just saying it would be awesome if this happened. Right. So, like, he's basically saying, make this happen, but I'm not going to tell you to do it. I don't want to know how you did it, but just make it so. And, like, by doing that, he's always protected himself by removing himself to a certain level, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. And it allows him all the time legally. He's been doing this for years, right? He's been using political power. He's been using economic power. He's been using business capitalistic power to remove himself from certain distances to make people do what he wanted. And he's trying to do this here, but there's too many people watching, and he's squirming. I don't think he'll be able to succeed, and I don't think the Republicans are willing to go as far as he is. And the next 20 days are going to be gross, but I don't think he's going to be able to get them to do what he wants. I mean, in the end, even Ted Cruz licking his boots, I don't think they have the votes to make anything really happen. Because tomorrow's election day, and then the next day is them confirming the Electoral College. So, like, the next 2 days are going to be bonkers. Period. No end around.
Fair enough. Well, I think we've exhausted that. I think now it's time.
Oh, shit.
Well,
bang, bang.
Hello there.
Time for answering conservative questions. And so, as I mentioned earlier this week, I got kind of bombarded a little bit with some of the questions. So I thought I would put them together, take the most common one, and spit it out. So, this week, it is, what would be something that would be too far for you to ever vote for Joe Biden, or something that would be too far for you to ever vote for a Democrat again? And you can answer them separately. They could be together. I mean, it's kind of the discussion point, right? Is that we said this before. What would make you change your mind, right? And I think this is a very convoluted question. But in fairness, we've asked the same thing of Trump supporters more than one time. Like, I've asked that question, what would make you not support Trump? because it gives you two camps.
Yeah,
of
what is too
discussion.
much? Yeah.
One camp is I always vote Republican. Another camp is, I guess there's more than two camps, but it's usually I always vote Republican. I am anti-choicer, or I love Trump, that type of thing. So there's that type of mentality. So I thought it would be good because somebody asked me this, like somebody messaged me and asked me this same question. What would have made you not vote for Joe Biden?
Keith usually gets thrown in this, but I guess for Keith, you're, I guess, a
I can
parallel
answer
for
it
you.
I can answer
I
a
know.
parallel.
But for a parallel for you, I guess just think about I'm going to answer it. It is what like the Canadian parallel would be like voting for, centrist, whatever, yeah, it would be technically. But so for me, the Joe Biden situation is the same kind of thing that I've been talking about as the shift to the right. If I saw Joe Biden, I mean, directly and openly support something like attacking another country preemptively, the type of things that we talk about centrists liking to be, globalist and a global police force and doing something like that, or Joe Biden openly, completely supporting something that would be easily understandable as against Black Lives Matter, right? It's saying like, I'm supporting the police in this situation. The kinds of progressive movements that we've seen as like a normal, regular, plain Jane left-leaning person supports. We support marijuana, gay rights. We support any of the things that come to the LGBTQ, everything. Like something that's blatantly and totally against that. If he came out, I would not vote for him for a second term. It would not be that difficult. I mean, I almost wouldn't vote for him if he was running against anyone else besides something like Trump. Like if it was a normal centrist Republican versus a centrist Democrat, Joe Biden, I would probably go into a third party camp. I would probably start looking at the Democratic Socialist candidates or whatever. So like, it doesn't take too much to push me to not vote for Joe Biden again, but the vote not Democrat, that's much tougher because that would be the DNC itself, the entire Democratic National Convention supporting something just really bad. I mean, like in our binary political system here, seeing something for the entire left side of the spectrum to be worse than the right side of the spectrum, that's hard. I mean, that's really hard. I can't imagine a case where that would happen, where something the DNC would be more conservative than the Republicans, especially the way they've been going of late. I mean, going harder and harder into the right. But maybe if the Democratic National Convention supported something like making the United States a Christian nation, or something where it's like in the middle, where like we're still going to be kind of whatever, but like if they wanted to go to the point where they were openly supporting something like a national religion or saying English should be the national language, like picking a side that harsh where it wouldn't be like alienating people or putting people in prison or something weird that the Republican hard right would do. But like something like that with the Democrats were like, no, American, it's a Christian nation. The founding fathers said that would be too much for me. And I would probably never vote Democrat again. Like, that's not going to be a thing where people get really, really hurt, but it would push me philosophically over the edge. So Biden being gross and the Democrats being religious. That's my answer.
Interesting.
Well, and I think in my world, one of the big things for me is, I guess I kind of go back and forth because I only voted for me. What would make me not vote for Biden again? Not having Trump. There you go. Like I would never vote for Biden in a normal election. I guess if Mitch McConnell was running, I'd probably still vote Democrat. But I'll be honest with you, without somebody that's going to create a hellscape, it's a lot harder for me on a Democratic political side to vote for that president. Now, as a Democrat overall, I think it would take the party to create a hard line that says all Democrats must do this, and it must violate a humanistic tenet I hold. So if they came out and said, we support putting children in cages, we support deportation, and if you don't support that, you can't be a Democrat, I'm done with Democrats. And I'll be honest, I mean, we've we've toyed with this before, and that's kind of what our theme is for the new year: is how do we find avenues and ways to subvert Democrats anyway without giving the wins to the Republican Party. So really, for me, you don't have a lot to sell me on. It's when we get a better party that can draw a bigger portion of the vote, or we go into total anarchy and can reset these silly scales. For me, that's what it'll take. And I'm not opposed to anarchy to some extent in the political realm if that's what it takes. And I was kind of hoping that's what would come on Trump, is that there would be enough anarchy that both parties would split hardcore enough that we would get multiple parties that we could live with. But really, the problem becomes is that didn't happen. And Trump's pretty extreme. I don't know what's more extreme than him coming into power. Like, I mean, maybe Jeremiah Bannister. I don't know. He openly talks about how much he despises race theory. So maybe somebody like him or a Proud Boy or something rising to power that was more openly overt than Trump, maybe that would cause the anarchy I'm looking for. But unfortunately, it's not happened. So we have to find a way that we can spend the next 4 to 20 years as progressives subverting the system to push a new party into the voting realm. That's
basically what you had mentioned there was what we had talked about a long time ago. You remember the philosopher I mentioned, Slavoj Zizek?
Yep.
He's one of the guys. He was like, he's a very progressive dude. I can't remember what country he's from, but he's obviously like a Russian satellite. And that was one of the things he said. He's like, I'm really excited that Trump has been elected, not because I like Trump, because I'm hoping that he will clarify things for the American people that, just bust the system up and make something new. And like, it didn't happen. Surprisingly, to a lot of people, it kind of showed us really what the true colors of a lot of our country is. And it's unnerving, but I mean, that kind of transparency has also been elucidating. It's been, but either way. So Canada, help us, please.
Okay, so I don't really like the premise of the question of saying that you would dogmatically never vote for a party again. I mean, yes, there are certain reasons why I would not vote for them. Just like there are reasons that I'm willing to say that if this, to metaphorically speak, if the stars were to just line up, they were to say the right things, and they were to happen to be the best party in line with what I wanted, and I was trying to make sure somebody else didn't win or whatever, I would probably end up voting conservative. I mean, I've voted I'm more of a strategic voter anyways, because I recognize that the parties I support typically won't win, simply because I'm in the middle of cousin fucking Canada, and that's because Alberta, it's basically like the south of Canada, essentially, in terms of ignorance and conservative dogma. Anyways, so I mean, obviously, if Joe Biden were to commit crimes against humanity and the Democrats were to be like, no, it's totes fine, then yeah, I would have a lot of issues supporting that party and would probably be trying to vote against them. But that, again, is kind of a conscience question. Anyways, so it would take a whole hell of a lot of like basically complete and total moral violations, ethics violations, what have you, for me to really have a hard time ever supporting a Democratic candidate ever again. That doesn't mean, though, that there's a particular situation in which I would just outright decry, I'm never voting for them again, that type of thing. So it's there's no real line that I can point to that for me is I would never support this party again without crossing into the territory of violating the Geneva Convention or torturing people in public for fun.
Yeah.
I hope that satisfies your question, Tanner.
Mm-hmm. I think it does.
I don't know. Like I said, it's just kind of one of those weird discussion points. I thought it was fair to kind of bring up again.
I think it's weird that they're bringing that up like now.
Well, I don't, because we've questioned them on what would you do to change your mind for Trump.
But what has Biden done that like would incite this train of thought. That was my question. Like, Trump's been doing crazy things. So, like, it was like,
because they see Biden's positions as worse off than Trump positions. Even if like Trump's crazy and doing crazy things, it's the how do I turn it around and have a conversation with you? It comes from that old philosophy when we first did our atheist show and we were having conversations, and you kind of get down to, well, what would it take to change your mind?
yeah,
And it's that same philosophy, it's that same group per se, applying it to politics now. And I don't disagree a little bit with it because it gets that going. And then it goes, you and I said, we just sat here and said, well, Keith said basically nothing would change his mind except for an egregious thing because he doesn't want to ever be locked into. He sounds like a Trump supporter, actually, because he doesn't want to get locked into anything. He wants to be able to free to make his own choice, to wear a mask if he wants, to not wear a mask if he wants.
That is the worst
have
take
whatever-
on my position.
Whatever gathering he wants, he doesn't care. It's his rights. He doesn't want to be told what to do.
Fuck you! I won't do what you tell me.
Exactly. And so, but that's the thing, the discussion point, right, is we say these to other people. We should probably turn around and look internally sometimes to say, is that really a valid question to ask somebody? Now, you and I both think it is because I don't understand how you could vote for Trump. I don't get it. And it's funny, even Jeremiah Bannister, I was listening to a little bit of his show today, which I should stop doing. But I was listening to it just because I had nothing better to listen to, and I like listening to the other side sometimes. And, there was a discussion point towards the end where basically he's like, I criticize Trump. I still would support him, but I criticize all these other things about him and all these other different avenues. And it's like, okay, so like, it's fair to say what would change your mind. Well, for him, it's a party position he votes for, not specifically the individual. And for us, we spent so much time attacking Trump. We just had a whole segment having a conversation with Trump about why he made a phone call to Georgia.
Yeah, we said, it's like some of the worst ethical behavior of a president in only 200 years of a country, but it's just the same conversation is happening right now for essentially all of Georgia. Tomorrow, about an hour and 23 minutes starting tomorrow, the Georgian people are going to be making a decision very, very much on that line. Is this guy so grotesque that you won't vote for your party, or are you voting party because the threat of a Democratic supermajority threatens your political, philosophical view that much that you can pass up? It's a big deal. I'm sure we'll be talking all about this next week because this is going to be one of the, besides November and like essentially when we found out the results of the Electoral College. Besides that, this week is going to be one of the most consequential of the next 2 to 4 years, without question.
And with that being said, let's move on to our next segment. And I think this is a valid conversation because I've done some research. So I asked the question to our internal team this week to say, what is this? And, should we repeal it? What are the ups and downs? And instead of getting an extremely well-rounded, here's the pros and cons, I got, here's why this would be bad. And let's see what happens when we cascade it. Down, 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 and down. But I think there is some valid points on the other side that we need to discuss because we need to understand, is this a valid... Think about it this way. It's not part of the Constitution, right? It was not a constitutional amendment. You and I both agree there's some language about the Second Amendment that probably should be changed a little bit or interpreted a little bit differently. Not let people walk around with automatic or semi-automatic rifles all over the place and own 1 million guns. We all know that there's some issues we have with that. So we have to be fair and honest and say, well, let's really, really get in and look at this as
Section 230.
Yep.
Yeah, Section 230 talking about internet freedom of speech mostly. And it's a surprisingly big deal to a group of people that are probably relatively internet illiterate.
All right. So lay it on us, man.
So my genuine understanding of Section 220, essentially the Communications Decency Act, what it does is it gives platforms a general pass if people on that platform say utterly horrifying things that would essentially be prosecutable if the platform was like supporting that thing. So the layman's explanation of it is like, if on Facebook you said something that was so egregious and so disgusting and so terrible that you could potentially be saying like, oh, this person is, you know, whatever, violating someone's basic human rights by saying that, you know, they are an utterly disgusting whatever religion or their whatever the sexuality or gender or whatever, that Facebook can be in trouble because they are allowing that person to say those things on their platform. Section 230 allows Facebook within reason to remove things that they think are a bit egregious and a bit too much, but also it requires them to remove things that are absolutely against the law, child sex trafficking. Like there's an entire list inside the section that basically says that anything that has to do with like that can be legitimately connected to breaking the actual law, and those kinds of things, the platforms are allowed to remove. They can be destroyed. When it comes to things that are questionable, like this is gross, we have created an ethical platform on our website, and you have violated said platform, we can remove your post and what you've done. And what it does is it basically Section 230 allows Facebook or Twitter or whoever to be free from being prosecuted or have lawsuits brought against them because of the language and things that some of these people say on their websites, even if it makes it through that basic general filter. And that's part of what the controversy is whether or not these websites are using Section 230 to protect themselves or to, according to conservatives, to silence conservatives and essentially violate their free speech rights. And then also they're completely and totally free of any lawsuits of anything that they've done, either to violate someone's free speech rights or that they've essentially been specifically directly attacking one group of people, discriminating. And that's my general understanding.
So yes, and the larger issue that Trump has with it is Twitter is censoring him, Facebook is censoring him, right? So like that's the common theme. That's why he wants it repealed. But there's more to this than that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and there is, and that's, you know, like that's my bigger issue with this whole thing is you actually have to look at all of what goes into it. And
it's philosophically very complex. It really is.
Yeah, because essentially it's somewhat of a good Samaritan internet law, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what they call it because of the fact that they want to ensure that you don't go to jail or have something happen to you just for hosting a platform. But they also they have what's called like a three-prong test, right? So you must satisfy these three things. The defendant must be a provider or user of an interactive computer service. The action must be asserted by the plaintiff, must treat the defendant as the publisher or speaker of the harmful information of issue, and the information must be provided by another information content provider, i.e. the defendant must not be the information content provider of the harmful information source. So hence, Twitter isn't going out and saying the election is a fraud, this, and that. But here's the problem a little bit with this, and this actually, they actually threw this law out originally. This did not just get like a universal pass and everybody was like, oh, we're good with this.
Oh yeah, there's been contested from the start, and there have been people that But there's free speech absolutists, and then there's people who are like us that are a little bit in the gray area. And the arguments there are valid, and they are implied and implicated in this conversation.
Yeah, because like one of the first challenges was against AOL, and if you know what AOL is, that's way
AOL?
back in the day, like when we were
You've
kids in the day using dial-up internet. Yeah, so some of
And
us
all the
had
discs that
AOL.
you would get in the mail.
Oh, you mean the internet that you had to listen to early forms of dubstep before you could access?
Oh no, it's minimalism, man. It's not dubstep. Completely different genre. We'll play it in the after show for you.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Yeah, well, let's go, buddy. I like minimalism. Anyway,
I do too.
moving past that. So
You are correct,
they were,
sir.
They were being sued because they didn't remove information about the Oklahoma City bombing in a timely manner. Think about that. That's back in 97, right? Is it 97, 98, something like that? That's back in the late 90s. That's just crazy. And
yeah, it's one of the arguments that like just like what you put out there, like so like it's like a news station saying this person did this and this is their specific name and whatever, and like then let's say someone else read that and went to their house and burned it down and killed everybody inside or something like that. Like there's all kinds of legal associations with that. You publish this information, you're responsible for it once it's out, kind of thing. And then on top of that, like, oh, this is how you can build a fertilizer bomb, and then like a whole bunch of fertilizer bombs come down thanks to news story. So like these conversations had to be had, and then the Oklahoma bombing was a big one.
Yep. Another big challenge was around early 2000s that was essentially warning that children are being trafficked on the internet, and they're using exploitation and all these different back page websites that allow essentially the dark web. Before
It literally was the back page. Page was the page that people were using. It was essentially weird sex cult, like pedophilia, Craigslist.
Yeah. And, so that's the discussion, should those sites be immune as well? And that was what the lawsuit is saying. Hey, stop. Why are you allowed to be immune to this shit? Like this stuff is illegal. And think about it. Like, I don't know if you ever heard of the Silk Road.
Oh yeah. Wait.
No, you haven't? Okay.
I sounded way too excited. Sorry.
So the Silk Road used to be like underground slang for how you could sell and buy drugs online. And when Bitcoin and these online digital things became very popular, that's when a lot of people wanted to utilize this type of stuff. Because Bitcoin's not traceable in the same way. Like you can trace it, but it's not as traceable as a credit card or a bank number or a wire transfer. Those things are very traceable, have clear patterns. Bitcoin's not the same way.
Then also the dark web.
Into a Bitcoin discussion about whether you can get.
Well, the dark web is also a similar conversation. Like the dark web itself is a massive chunk of the internet that is not used. It's mostly like a utility and like a utilitarian version of the internet. So like what we're on right now is like the floating surface that's been modified and adjusted for what we want. And the dark web is basically like you going through like mechanical channels, and it's a weird, creepy, crazy place of wild west. And then they named it the Silk Road because it essentially is like a lawless zone, and then they use all kinds of different ledger-based money to buy stuff. And they named it the Silk Road primarily because of what the Silk Road was originally, which was it's a land route connecting Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, and in Persia, East Africa, Europe. I mean, it was like they traded in silk. I mean, one of the ideas and reasons why Columbus was looking for like the water route and all that kind of stuff is like all the different routes that they were trying to avoid from land travel. And like, so like they were thinking like in naming the Silk Road, dark web, and all that kind of stuff is that like it's like a just awesome, super slick, fast underground way to do all of these things. And it's part of the conversation of, is that too underground or not? And should that be given, free reins? Like, we're just offering people a platform and they're doing the illegal thing, so they are responsible for it. Or does the person who's offering the connective tissue between those people, right? Napster, we're allowing people to download things illegally or whatever, like all that kind of stuff. Is this an illegal platform? Or is this just offering a service and people are choosing to do illegal things, but the person offering the platform or the service shouldn't be held accountable by offering, the highway or whatever? That's like the major conversation.
Yeah, and see, and this is where I will probably dissent from other people. Like, honestly, like I don't believe that everything is exempt just because of the fact that there could be all these other nuances. And so here's a good thing to talk about. They asked about the law Trump signed, basically forcing anything that had illegal sexual content to be taken off because you could be held accountable, right? I don't disagree with that to some extent. But the problem is what it did is it didn't actually help child trafficking that they could discover, but it's hurt sex work and prostitution. Now, it's illegal in a lot of states, right? So we could make a moral case against that. But on the opposite side, them saying it makes all these things less safe, blah, 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 should just trigger us to go, why don't we create a law that legalizes sex work? Like, isn't that the most logical thing to do, right? Like, we logically legalize sex work and allow for it to happen with certain circumstances and all these other things. Because that's what this is pointing out. So this issue of trying to stop sex trafficking is not wrong. And I'll give you another example here in a second. But this right here is wrong.
The route that they took, the way in which they tried to stop sex trafficking was wrong.
Yes, but at the same time, they could push to fix that. Now, here's another thing, where this law should be changed a little bit, in my opinion. Is you have all these porn sites, and these porn sites have illegal sex videos on them. For example, and this is
the revenge videos or whatever.
Yeah, revenge
porn.
Yes, or you have pictures that are stolen off celebrities' phones, right? Your phone gets hacked, you get a sex video. My wife tells me we don't get to do one of those because of the fact that she doesn't want it stolen off our phone. Makes sense, right? But the discussion point, though, right, is really the bigger issue is you steal it off the phone, and then they put it on all these streaming services. Should we be able to go after these people and these platforms that host it? Now, I would argue that we should be able to go after them, but at the exact same time, there should be like a slight delay. So, for example, if a user puts one on and it gets reported, these sites should be required to go after and look at those videos and determine if they were illegal, investigation, this and that, and they could do the same thing. And if you look at how Facebook's algorithms work, people bitch all the time about being banned. Jeremiah Bannister, for example, has bitched more times than not that he's being suppressed by Facebook. Though I'll tell you, every fucking day he does a fucking show and get a fucking notification, so he sure as hell is not being suppressed. But
I know.
The idea behind it makes sense because should you give those companies ultimate control? And I can tell you, for example, I want a PS5. I can't get one. I'm getting a fucking stimulus. We have all these people out there that are using bots that are buying multiple copies and then selling them online for twice the price. Now, most people will tell you that's just capitalism, get over it. I would tell you that's bullshit. It's gouging. And if I lived in a rural America, I would be shooting those people in the head and taking the PlayStation and be like, sucks to be you. You should fucking have done that. And because to me, it's a crime to go, I'm going to charge you $1,000 because I bought 7 of them in line, or I had a friend at Target that sold me 10 of these. And, oh, by the way, they're all now going to double in price. That's bullshit, right?
Yep.
Like, fuck you. It's the same way as ticket scalping. I hate ticket scalping with a passion. And I'll tell you what, I've been offered multiple times for ticket scalping, and like Death Clock, for example. This guy and his son wanted to go see the first ever Death Clock show. They offered me $250 a ticket. Dead serious. This dude must have been loaded. $500.
That's cheap. That's cheap.
Well, this
how
is
much was
back
the
when I
tickets?
paid $25
I
for the
spent
ticket.
$750 for 2 Detroit Tigers tickets.
That's insane
What
to me.
the hell?
World Series. It was World Series. But
I
still.
mean, I guess like for you, you might find the value in that because you know, former baseball star and all of that. But
Oh,
like,
it's my first time my father ever saw the Detroit Tigers play at Comerica Park.
okay, so
It
so
was the
on
World
top of
Series.
that,
But like,
it's a
still,
sentiment.
like the ticket scalping thing, like, I mean, I
you get my
understand that
point,
ticket
though,
scalping.
right?
Yeah.
It
Oh,
sucks. It
absolutely. Oh
sucks.
God, Calgary's had so many issues with scalpers. Like we had a couple of concerts that basically within 5 minutes, all the tickets are gone, and then you go through. And this is something that really pissed me off: is that Ticketmaster, which is our ticket distributor here, has
Same
a
thing.
website where you can I didn't know that. I'm not American. Come on. They have a
suck here
secondary
too.
website where you can resell tickets. StubHub. And if you go on there, all the tickets are marked up, and it's fucking infuriating and disgusting.
Ticketmaster
Fucking
charges for the
embarrassing.
original sale. They bought
Yep.
StubHub and then charge for the StubHub sale. So like
Yeah.
that, I mean, they're double dipping. But in the end, it's like
Oh, yeah.
so like that's an area of the internet where like people who are like, this is just gross capitalism. That's nasty. We don't like it. And then, but like should that kind of like crazy markup and like just wild rampant capitalism be allowed? That's a philosophical question. The same kind of thing, like Jeremiah Bannister, like you mentioned multiple times, he says that he being suppressed, his I guess views or his, I mean, unless he's saying something so thoroughly disgusting that he gets reported, and then the people at Facebook see what he says and say no, and they actually say no to that. I mean, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to get the ban hammer from Facebook. I mean, it's less than it used to be, but the argument here is what we're looking at is is that is if 230 is repealed, right? The people who want to repeal it, these are the conservatives. They want to repeal this as part of their negotiations for giving the people stimulus to stay alive in America during the worst pandemic in hundreds of years. Just bringing the context back. This 230, section 230, this is an area where they think conservatives are being attacked or censored on social media platforms, and they think that's a big deal. The question is are they actually? And in the end, like, is this a real thing? If they remove 230, will it benefit them? I think it will not benefit them, because essentially if you take 230 away, you're taking the legal route of we can kind of let some things that are a little bit gross stay on our platforms because we're not legally liable or being held accountable. So in the end, if 230 is repealed, all it will do is make sure that Facebook censors people more, and that Twitter censors people more, because they are now legally, in the end, financially liable for things that are gross. And so
hold on, but
it would shut it down, Hanna, more.
But at the same time, and this is the opposite argument, right? At the same time, people like Trump, who are billionaires, can sue them and drag them through court and settle for false accusation, basically saying, like, I don't know, I can't imagine Trump would win. Again, he's already lost 61 times in court. The election fraud does not exist.
Oh yeah, the election fraud thing. But like, this would just be like normal stuff.
Just I know,
like
but
things
it
that get
opens
censored.
the door for people to go and start suing these major companies. And here you go. This is what Biden said. Do you know Biden had an opinion on this? Well before the election.
Mm-hmm.
He essentially says that the view that we should not be worried, or we should be worrying about the concentration of power. We should be worried about the lack of privacy and them being exempt from the law. Because essentially he's been accused on platforms of essentially
being kind of gross.
Not just being gross, but basically about his son. So this all stemmed from his whole son and the Ukrainian issue, and basically that he is a part of that whole conspiracy, right? And that's the thing that they talk about in that. So to some extent, he wants it revoked because of the fact that he's being attacked. So he's very short-sighted, just like Trump is in this whole fucking pendulum.
I'm not really supporting either Democrats or the Republicans in this situation. Like, it's just what would happen if 230 got removed. So, like, let's say Zuckerberg and Facebook and Twitter and I can't remember the CEO's name from Twitter, like whoever's in financial responsibility for all of the major platforms we use, Instagram, Facebook, obviously are associated, and then Twitter, and then I don't know, there'd probably be something weird associated with Snap or whatever. Like, in the end, like, if it got removed and all these companies could be sued all the time, what would the option be? They would be like, everything is allowed, and everything turns into 4chan and 8chan and whatever. I mean, just anything you post, just anything is allowed, and these companies would just completely and totally let the Wild West, or they would censor almost anything, or the other option is nothing's free anymore, nothing's ad-based anymore. Guess what? You got to pay to use my service, and I'm going to tell you what you can do on my site.
Yep. So
I don't know any other option that these companies would have if they were just bombarded with lawsuits all the time. It's just the internet's no longer free.
Here's your other option, right? This is the other option. Essentially, they're complaining that these platforms have become monopolies. And if you want to be honest, look at the Parler exit. It didn't happen very well, did it?
Brexit?
Yeah.
Brexit. Can we call it Brexit? Brexit?
Well, the thing that gets me is that everyone is not even saying it right. It's parlay.
No, it's Parler. That's how you're going to say it. That's
how, I know.
That's how they want it to be said. It's America. We get to say things how the fuck we want, asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're aware.
I saw Pirates of the Caribbean. I know you're supposed to say it.
and so the whole discussion, in fairness, like, dude, the whole discussion actually comes around this, and I don't disagree to some extent in this, like, right, like, this is not. This isn't like gross, but like it's I don't know, man, because you put a bunch of places in power, and give them money because of capitalism. You've now allowed for them to do one of two things, right? The smaller ones will go out of business because of lawsuits. The larger ones will win and control the media we see. And I'm on the opposite. I'm not on the page that we should repeal it. Personally, I'm on the page that we need to fix it. That we don't want to repeal it. We want to change it for the better. And
incrementalism. That's what I'm hearing from the anarcho-capitalist or anarcho-socialist.
Yeah, because if it were really my world, I would probably say we're going to ban this, and this. If you get caught with this, you lose your protection rights. And it's kind of the same way as if somebody walks into your home and you shoot them and kill them, and you find out that they had a pocket knife, and do you have the right to live?
You had a bazooka?
And not be charged with murder, You
leave my bazooka out of this.
If you shoot a bazooka in the house, Keith, we don't have to worry about a trial.
I'm being sarcastic.
There are a lot of things.
Yep, we're done.
There are a lot of things we need to worry about.
But in the end, what we're talking about essentially, like the lawsuit aspect of this, like the small companies, right? You're going to get a bit obliterated by lawsuits, or you just won't police anything at all, and you'll be a 4chan or an 8chan. Like, you'll be these crazy places where things like QAnon can live and thrive. It'll be gross. It'll be absolutely insane. Or the internet will turn into what I argue it should have been from the start. It's not ad based, but subscription based. And any website should have been looking for financial support from the people who used it. And it would have been, like periodicals. It would have been like magazine subscriptions, and it would be a completely different place. It would not nearly be as democratized as far as information is concerned. But it would have been free of some of these things. So, like, if you want to use some of the smaller sites or whatever, you gotta kind of either deal with the absolute anarchy, or you would have to pay to be in a place that's a little more enjoyable. I would have loved to see what the internet experiment would have looked like if it had started like that. And I think that would be kind of the response to this.
I think part of the issue with that is that it would have really excluded people who couldn't afford to go to those websites. And it would have been very much a privilege to be able to go to those sites. So I think that's a big problem with what you've proposed. I mean, it's a nice idea, but I'm all for getting rid of the ad based. like I am all for getting rid of ads because I am
What if
so
people had to pay the
done
same amount
with
that like
5
ads are?
bloody ads per
You guys
minute
are
on
moving-
every YouTube
You're
video.
moving away from the subject. What is it? What is a pay per site gonna do? I don't give fuck ads. Let's move on past the ads for a second. What is the pay site really genuinely gonna grant you? Can you pay then? And I'll ask the question: can you
Integrity?
pay to be part of a Nazis we hate black people site? Like, can you have a website then that says this, and you can openly talk about how you want to do whatever you do with your crazy racist people? Are they allowed to talk about that? And should nobody be held responsible?
As far as I know, that's allowed now.
No,
right? If you
the websites are not, because the laws come into place where they talk about certain types of free speech and they go after certain things. And they are allowed. You're right, they are. But that's what I'm telling you.
So how does the
Section
Stormfront
230,
exist?
What the fuck does a subscription base going to do? It's not going to fix any of this.
Well, I know, but like,
if I have money, I could just go apply to all these sites just to get them banned, right?
That's just my question. So like, all of like either any kind of like absolutely like egregiously, complete and total right First Amendment stuff, the things that the Republicans are saying they want that state of nature, that First Amendment absolutist perspective.
But they don't.
You are allowed to say anything you want, and if 230 is removed, you're not allowed to say those things, because any of the places that is hosting you is now liable for the thing you're saying. So if you become a subscription based thing, you become a private club, right? The Masters tournament, no women can play at our club because we're a private club. It's subscription based. You're not allowed in unless you pay a subscription. It took how many hundreds of years to get to play for women to play golf in that place. Like the internet itself, though, the internet itself, as far as I know, and I mean, I would if anyone knows, but like, if in my understanding, if you have a private pay to use place, even if it's a complete and total Nazi disaster, you're allowed to have that. You can have Nazi.com.
No, not if it violates certain rules. So hate speech laws are bullshit, and they don't actually protect against hate speech. Period. That's a fact. They don't actually do that. But they do protect against sex acts, right? That's what we just talked about. And this right here, this argument right here, this is what we're talking about. So by taking Section 230 away and creating pay to play, you actually create a worse space for people to be in. And the whole point is they're saying that with Section 230, people are using shame and pushing their own expression. So when a company wants to have their own opinion, right? Like Facebook, for example, is the middle of the road guy. Twitter is a little bit more liberal guy, right? So if you're on Facebook, you're going to get banned for dumb things, and they're not going to really regulate the fraud speech as much as Twitter does, because Twitter's like, nope, that's a fraud. Boom, we're going to give you a warning, this, and that. Now, you go to paid places and you don't put any regulations in. Now you just lost all of that. You go back to the men's club type thing. I don't want that. And this,
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like,
this argument
removing
right
230 would get that.
I'm sorry. Like, I have to take, weirdly enough, I'm taking a little bit of the side of saying, by creating a space that is free for everybody, but is driven by their political belief, you create echo-type chambers. Now, I don't disagree with how Twitter handles certain things, and I don't, disagree on some of the aspects of it, like putting the fraud warning on Trump's stuff, right? Like, I don't have a problem because they're not taking his post offline. It's not like Facebook, right? But the difference is if you repeal or change 230, you can now tell Twitter, hey, instead of you giving, making, and I don't know, Keith, there you go, Keith. Google how much fucking money Twitter made last year. I literally want to know what their fucking revenue stream was last year. Because if we could say that less than 20% of the revenue stream was actually fucking spent moderating, and in fairness, they're only moderating Trump now because it's the bigger draw to things, And on top of that, because they moderate him, he gets more hits and views, which I would be interested to know. Now you have to talk about how they're controlling this free speech aspect. And instead of actually allowing for us to just say, here's clear-cut guidelines, these are things that go against humanistic morals, we are now living in a pay-to-play, but it's just free for you and I until we get up there into Trump's arena.
So it looks like Twitter revealed revenues of $936 million for year-on-year or year-to-year Q3 from 2019 to Q3 of 2020.
Yeah. 10% of that revenue is $90 million. And could you spend $90 million on regulating a little bit better? So all it is saying, maybe we should start I don't agree with them, but they believe by repealing 230, they're going to force companies to regulate themselves more because of the capitalistic threat of law. I'm saying we should change Section 230 to stop exempting certain bullshit and start holding the companies responsible, but not allowing personal lawsuits like Trump will put in place and allowing the government to put regulations and stipulations. So there you go, Hanna. There is my, I'm very against Section 230, but because I wanted to have more laws and regulation from the government.
That's what I mean. It's like you're not a free speech absolutist. You want to see more things that are being overlooked and regulated and things like that, which is exactly where I would expect you to be in all reality. It's like what section. So here's an interesting thing, right? So like the idea, if you remove Section 230, it becomes essentially anarchy. It's whatever and anything. Anybody can be sued. Also, anybody can just not be sued. If you're a small nobody, you can be sued 1,000,000 times, but if you don't censor anything and don't do anything, you're essentially not suable because you just let anyone do whatever they want. But the question is whether this person who's on your page, who's being incredibly racist or being incredibly misogynist or whatever, can you sue them because you're allowing them to be just insane? There's all this legal, gray area that would be making this way more difficult. But also on top of that, there are sites like the Daily Stormer that exist now with Section 230 on the books, right? So Section 230 itself is making whoever host XYZ somewhat responsible for what they're doing. Well, the Daily Stormer is a thing. It's an American far-right neo-Nazi supremacist, white supremacist, misogynist, Holocaust-denying commentary. Like they're just like, groups like image boards like 4chan and all of these kinds of things, but they exist and they change their host companies as they get removed and kicked off, and financially they're supported by Bitcoin contributions and whatever. This is a gross, absolutely disgusting, horrible place that is beyond any kind of like yuck that you'll ever run into if you're a progressive humanist person. This is on the internet and it's just fine. It's just fine. It gets, difficult things here and there. Some sites will not host them anymore and they have to find, a host in a different place or whatever. But that is on the internet in the United States and people can go there
but
anytime they want. And
it's
so like
Section
the
230, Hanna, then if Black Lives Matter and some other ACLU PACs want to sue the sites that are hosting Daily Stormer, you actually would get them to stop posting that.
Well, that's the thing. It's so like under 230, it would force them. Yeah, it would force them, these hosts, to host the Daily Stormer, that host these super uber conservative groups, they would allow them to be sued. So the argument to remove 230 that's being applauded by a massive pile of Trump supporters, the ones that love to go to the Daily Stormer are actually endangering the site they like to go to. You know what I mean? Like this is a common theme that we see a lot of times, is like people voting against their own interest, right?
Nope.
They're interested in removing this and putting this down into the anarchist perspective and like the state of nature, but it'll actually allow minority groups and people that don't like the Daily Summer to be completely obliterated by lawsuits. That's the basic state of nature that they want. They don't understand what they're doing. So like this is coming down from a Trump perspective, saying like I shouldn't be able to be whatever censored in any way, shape, or form, and people are looking at it from the top down and not looking from the bottom up. And that's an example there, just simply that like the websites and news sites, the Grudge. The Grudge Report and things like that. Like there are things on there that are absolutely, completely, and totally false about election fraud and all that kind of stuff. Like these are things that it would actually hurt those sites if 230 was gone, because they would be liable for lawsuits that they're not liable now. Like the understanding of this law is a big deal, and I think it would hurt a lot of people who actually support removing it, because they don't really understand the implications of creating an absolute internet state of nature.
I would agree, actually, on that.
Yeah,
but I don't agree on pay for play site.
Well, it's just whether or not it would work or not. Like, would that be the place? Like, if the internet had always been pay to play and that advertising wasn't the main way, would that have changed the behavior? And if 230 is removed, would being pay to play create a legal safe haven? I pay to have whatever. Like, there's all kinds of crazy arguments to see what would happen. So I'd be curious to see legally what people would think. If anybody knows any lawyers or whatever, that I'd love to give an explanation as to whether or not, if you have a pay to play website, are you allowed to just be an absolutely gross racist or not? Can you be a hate speech, fearmonger, or are you still liable for whatever kind of free speech rights that you would have? I'm not certain, but I would think that private clubs and private websites have more freedoms than free and open platforms like Facebook and Twitter.
Fair enough. Well, for the last segment, I wanted to
oh my God,
show
so
you
bad.
Linwood. Now,
So bad.
There's all sorts of stuff. I don't even know. Like, they post this picture, which makes no sense. But this guy, let's go back through the history real quick.
Just real quick, his name is very like you wouldn't expect what it is. His name is Lucian Lincoln Linwood Jr. He's an American attorney, political commentator, and conspiracy theorist based in Atlanta, Georgia. So that's who this guy is.
And his original claim to fame was he defended the Ramsey family against
John Benet Ramsey
defamation lawsuits about whether they killed their daughter or not. That's how he got his start. That's where he's known from. He also worked with Trump on the Trump campaign, defending Trump and his ludicrous findings. Moreover than that. And now he's also known for claiming that there is a large lizard conspiracy of people behind every intelligence agency hiding child pedophilia and sex trafficking videos. And he's claiming blackmail, right? And so we'll
it's like a QAnon with lizards, essentially. That like Trump is the geodist God Emperor of the United States who is like fighting against this crazy pedophilia ring. Like, is that
but he's also, before this, and see, this is only 23 hours ago, so let's go back a little bit farther. Oh, let's keep going. He had a meltdown. And he started with Mike Pence. That's how he started. Like, it was the original controversy came by basically
because Pence wouldn't say no to the electoral college stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
As much as Pence is just a spineless git and willing to do whatever it takes to get his way, he's also at least politically savvy enough to realize that if he keeps going and following Trump, it's political suicide for him. especially based off of the hardcore values he's been preaching. I think he's one of the only ones, and this pains me to say it somewhat, who has at least something of a spine. Not much of one, like maybe one or two vertebrae, but in comparison to the rest of them, he seems to be the only one with spine enough to be like, Mother, I would like to not be dealing with this anymore.
He's just been hiding the whole time.
Yeah. And so the theory is that he's doing that because he's working with Republicans so that he can get the nomination in 2024. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how he started his crazy rant, right? Yep. See, here you go. This tweet right here. And
Full screen.
I don't know how to do full screen with Twitter, so
I was meaning on what you're focusing on, just like that.
All right. And so he's essentially claiming this, and I mean, we could go through and read all the other things. Is there hints to this? Is there any of this? I mean, they're claiming this all started when Bush passed away and they had the funeral. And it's like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, this is crazy. And how about this? Even if it's not crazy, like, in fairness, Mike, he's not just doing it to getting good with the the Republicans. He's doing it because he's like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Why would I try and hold this up? Like, that's crazy. I'm not going to do that. But he then branched out, right? And he's making all sorts of accusations about blackmail and child molestation. And he starts off with Isaac Cappy, who I have no idea who the fuck that guy was at all. I don't know if you know who he is or not.
No, I'm not familiar with him at all, but I'm doing the Googles right now.
Yeah.
He's an American actor, musician known for his roles in Thor and Terminator Salvation, AMC series Breaking Bad, and he was a member of the band Monster Paws.
Yeah. I had no idea who this guy was.
Yeah. I mean, those are some big movies, though. So, like, the guy had some stuff, right? He was in the movie Beer Fest, of all places, right? Like, The Broken Lizard. Oh, is that a connection to the lizard people? Dear God, did we just discover this? Oh, my goodness.
So he is literally claiming that people are being blackmailed.
Oh, my goodness.
And that what they're doing is they're taking people at gunpoint and holding them at gunpoint, saying, you will rape this child or we'll kill you right here. And they rape the child, and then they videotape it, and then they force them to kill the child on video. And
this
then
is
what they do is say, we're going to blackmail you, you're going to do what we want. And that's how they control the government.
The African Liberation Army that Joseph Kony was part of, like, he would force children to kill another child, like to dirty him up, and then they would essentially be trapped in their own sin to be, slaves of his army or whatever. So, like, this Linwood guy is saying that these QAnon lizard whatever conspiracy people are doing that to people with children.
Yeah. Now, you want to know the irony of this whole thing?
What?
If we look back at the John Benet Ramsey case, there's three theories, right?
That's really
one theory
bad.
is the father or the mother killed her. The other theory is the son or her brother killed her.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the third one is that there was an intruder, right? And it's still an unsolved thing. And I don't really want to get down the road because I don't know which is true. But one of the things that people accuse that the son of, right, is the fact that they found pineapple in her stomach. They found a pineapple dish on the counter, and the only fingerprints on it were John Benet Ramsey's and her brother, right? And so this whole thing is like he's defending a family where nobody's been able to figure out who killed this daughter. And if you know how she was found, you would go, yes, it's very suspect.
Everything was
I'm
terrible.
not saying the family did it at all. I'm just saying, like, why would somebody break into a house, hang a child, mutilate her, violate her a little bit, and then leave? Like, why? It just makes no sense to, right?
Yeah, I mean, if it was anything that, like, if let's say someone came into the house, it would be someone who knew and had some kind of weird fixation with this. I mean, all the child pageants and stuff that there's just like so much grossness involved and everything. The parents, gross parents, family, gross family, all the people associated around this girl, gross people, like just everything was just. Ugh. And so this Linwood guy was supporting, or at least representing the parents, and cool, fine, whatever. You got dog pictures and craziness and Trump on your Twitter feed. It's gross and weird, but like, I mean, off the deep end, like, really? I mean, this is a long ways off, in my opinion. Like, I don't know. It's just something else.
But
I'm just kidding.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying I'm doing a little bit of a background on that whole Isaac Cappy thing, and the dude sounds like he was not mentally healthy. Like apparently he was on InfoWars in August 2018, and Jones was actually asking him to basically scale back his everything that he was saying, and for Alex Jones to tell you to scale back, you are crossing some lines.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I was just thinking, like, James Woods. You guys familiar with Videodrome, James Woods? Like this, when I look at this feed, I see James Woods. I see, essentially like multiple conversations earlier throughout this entire, the 4chan. I see the conspiracy page. I see guys that are essentially they're in this world, and like, let's say a couple of things push them in. I don't know. This Linwood guy, he may be a representative and a lawyer, and he did his thing and tried to find the truth. And let's say, like, Nicolas Cage in 8mm, he went a bit too far. And now we have this, whatever this thing is that is on our Twitter feed at the moment, and it's just a broken shell of whatever intellect used to exist inside of that human brain, and it's just it's a dangerous, weird place. I do think that this is very similar to like some kind of like out of body experience acid trip thing, but this guy may legitimately, honestly, genuinely believe some of these things, and the question is like, should any of these things be censored or allowed, or is this just a cesspool of
I don't
fake
know, like,
misinformation? Like, I don't know, man.
You're pushing. No, I don't want to go down that road because,
I know.
to be honest with you, I kind of think he should be able to say this type of stuff, and we should let defamation suits come out if that's the case. But I mean, I don't know. This is a hard line because here's the thing: is he's claiming this Isaac Cappy knew the Lizard Squad hacked, gave blackmail files to Isaac Cappy. He gave them and split them to two friends, and now they're going to come out if Linwood dies. And the Lizard Squad's in jail.
Yeah.
And he's claiming Jeffrey Epstein used the exact same thing. He's claiming, I don't know, who cares where he posted it. He's claiming that he's talked to the president. He's being ignored. He's claiming all sorts of contacts. And again, I'm not going to tell you he's right or wrong, right? Maybe he is right. Maybe he does have evidence. But tell me, if he has the evidence, A, is it legal how he obtained it? Right? And then again, tell me, who the fuck is this Lizard Squad, right? Because why are we talking about these people again? When's the last time this hacker group has ever been brought up, right? I mean, Keith, do you know who the Lizard Squad is? Or do you only know
I'm just, honestly, anytime I hear the lizard people thing, just because of previous other shows that I've listened to talking about conspiracy theorists and the whole reptilian thing, is basically it's all coded anti-Semitism. So I'm just sitting here trying to parse around, get around that, because it's, I don't know. That in and of itself is worthy of like an entire episode series diving right into the lizard people conspiracies.
The Lizard Squad thing, though, for me, like from what I've known, they're a hacking group that attacked a bunch of gaming sites. They were DDoS attacks, so that basically denial of service attacks. So they would just bombard and destroy whatever service you had with just a bunch of clones. They would hack 100,000 computers using some stupid bot system, and they would just destroy your server. All these systems would like automatically just try to log into whatever thing you had, and they would just blow your crap apart. And like, I mean, cool, I guess, like gaming services. Like, I don't understand where they going from like attacking gaming stuff to like being like this underground, super relevant political. Again, QAnon. They know about the pedophilia and Jeffrey Epstein. Like, everybody is just like connecting these dots and connecting these animals in the bushes, right? The fight or flight response in the human brain, and they're just like shaking the bush, and everybody's just making all of these things some kind of like crazy, super duper bad guy, and it's getting frustrating because like I'd heard of Lizard Squad, but nothing associated with any political thing. It was like part of Gamergate and crap like that.
Yeah. And like this is the whole crazy conspiracy aspect, thing.
Just a worm, a seed.
Yeah, I mean,
I
don't know. And like, I get that there's always a possibility, right? That, we have underground child exploitation processes going. Some of them could be bigger operations. That's not something that is unfathomable.
Yeah, it's not even like a possibility. Like, it happens all over the world. Slavery, whatever. Like, there's all kinds of horrible things that happen. Super rich people have a banana republic in the United States where there's a different legal system for really rich people. That's not uncommon. It's not.
Yeah, but my thing is when it comes down to this, like, hey, if he can demonstrate, and I'll say this about Trump,
prove it, dude.
If you can demonstrate that there was voter fraud, and you really can because you've lost 61 times, all right, let's have a conversation about it. I'm okay that there is a possibility that that there could be groups coming around. Yes, I don't disagree that there is always. I don't think there's ever a possibility of lizard people. How about that? There you go. I'll just say that there is not that. I don't believe that.
Yeah. Well, that lizard group, that name is just like a hacker group name.
I will not say that there is not a possibility though that a group could be going around blackmailing people. Do I think it extends to every intelligent agency in the world? No. Look, it's about as ludicrous as saying the Democrats rigged the election. They're fucking stupid.
There's truthers
instead of Bernie. They're dumb as shit. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They could have put Clinton up again, and it would have been better than Biden, for fuck's sake. Like, Clinton was better than Biden, and they put Biden up, right? So there's certain aspects of this, and I'm open. Like, if people have evidence, like, did I show you, and I probably shouldn't tell you this, but there was a video where somebody tried to take, what's the guy's name from The Daily Show?
Jon Stewart?
Nope.
Oh, Trevor Noah.
Nope, not Trevor Noah. No, what's the Catholic guy?
The
priest.
Not Jordan Klepper.
No, come on. He's popular. He has his own nighttime show. How do I not know the guy's name? Fuck's sake. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
No, not that guy.
Yeah, no, he was.
Colbert.
Wait, are you thinking of
Stephen Colbert, right?
Oh.
Do you know who Stephen Colbert is? Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a video where they have this creepy guy dressed in green and pink paint singing some weird, creepy children's song. And children are standing against the wall singing it in the same paint outfit, too. And you can't tell. And people are claiming this is fucking Stephen Colbert. But there's no, like, evidence that this is really true, right? Like, none at all.
I'm familiar with that one.
Conspiracy for the whole savior. Yes, Colbert, thank you. Yes, thank you, Bello. That's who I was thinking of. I just couldn't think of the damn dude's name. I don't know why. I couldn't think of. But like,
I thought you were talking about active current. Yeah. Anyway.
No. And there was this whole thing, and I found this video, and like, you watch it, and the video is creepy as shit. Like, I won't lie and say like, if this was like a kid's video made, this fucked up, man. Like somebody don't know they're
It's like that old if you guys have ever seen the Einstein video of the claymation where the little boy and the little girl are on like a weird alien planet and like a monster and like this like the monster's like, no, you're gonna like that, just full on like just straight up creepy. It's like if Bozo the Clown was like a serial killer and they made a funny video about it, like it's just not enjoyable and it's just weird. And it's like the dark recesses of YouTube. Yeah.
If you could prove that was Colbert in some way, shape, or form, other than trying to say his nose looked the same, okay, fine, right? Fine. But that doesn't convince me. But I will say that there is definitely sex trafficking. I know that for the fact because they find these places out all over the place. And I don't think it's... I think what's illogical is saying they're granting people power from it. Nobody's getting power out of it. You're not being promoted by some elitist Illuminati. I will say that these things do happen and you could get benefits from it. I am a little fuzzy saying that there is a possibility that there's a large organization blackmailing people to do things. But I mean,
it's not centralized like everybody says it is, right?
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like
larger government conspiracy that could.
There's a bunch of gross little pockets of people doing horribly illegal and terrible things. There's tons of them all over the world, and between whatever fraternities or whatever, like there's tons of them. They're all over the place. But like a conspiracy of like a giant, massive thing is too much work. It just is.
Yeah, well, it's like all conspiracies. They just end up caving in on themselves because it's like suicide by attrition, because the number of people that have to get involved, it just caves in on itself because there's far too many moving parts for it to not fall in on itself. I mean, hell, we have proof of conspiracies in the past. The best example being the conspiracy to murder Archduke Ferdinand and sparking World War I, which was a hilarious Benny Hill episode, by the way, because it took them 2 tries, and then the guy goes to kill himself, and just by luck ends up killing the Ferdinand to begin with. That's a conspiracy. Yeah. That's a real conspiracy. They exist. The problem is that when you actually start breaking down the facts and get into the nitty gritty of a lot of these theories, they just don't have the internal consistency it takes to stand up on their own. They just don't. The whole 9/11 conspiracy, it falls in on itself because how many engineers have proved beyond a doubt that everything that happened lines up? Sure, there's a few things that are just kind of like, well, that's weird, but it's not abnormal. It's not defying physics. The cross appearing, well,
the number of people that would be involved.
Yeah. Exactly. And for it to not cave in on itself, like that's far too suspect. And it just blows my mind that people who are so conspiracy minded can't even stop and go, oh man, but wouldn't they die too? Like, what? You know, like it's a desire for the agency.
The only way 3 people can keep a secret is if 2 of them are dead.
Well, and I think the key to it is if you believe this exists no matter what, you have a predisposition, right? You know, like I know certain things exist because they've been demonstrated and proven through media and this and that. But if I immediately jump to the fact that whoever that dude was accusing, we'd have to go back. He's accusing some attorney general of it, right?
And let's also admit the fact that
the actor guy.
And let's also recognize, we have an entire industry of paparazzi, who literally follow people from sun up to sundown, just trying to get pictures of them in their underwear. You think they're not going to eventually come across something? Like, I mean, some of them are wealthy enough that, maybe they did come across something and they got paid off to not say anything, but that's one person, not an entire army upon an army upon another army that basically 6 degrees of separation. Eventually everybody knows about it anyways.
Like the conspiracy theory I can accept is that Jeffrey Epstein did kill himself, but
what?
Because he paid everybody off to basically say, I've been caught, I've had a good life, I'm done with it, fuck off. Or maybe he believed in an afterlife, I don't know. But like he didn't want to go to jail and deal with it, and he didn't want to have to churn over a bunch of people. I don't believe somebody killed him. I don't believe the Clintons killed him, to keep their secret safe.
Hell no.
I think that the security guards just were being lax, or maybe were paid to be lax or something. But like,
that's a possibility. I can accept the fact that he did want to do it, and he's like, "Look, I don't want to go through this trial. I don't want to do any of this shit. I just want to be British. I got caught doing shitty things. I want to be done with it."
Yeah, the British just said that they're not gonna let Julian Assange come to the U.S. because they're like, he's probably gonna kill himself if he goes to the U.S. because everybody kills himself. Like, I mean, that's a legitimate point, right?
And
like,
in fairness,
you go to the U.S., you just be suicided.
Think about it this way, dude. Like, in fairness, it is very suspicious that a lot of these people do commit suicide. I mean, it is, but I also just have a hard time seeing a larger.
I think of the case
behind it.
I mean, yeah, sure, it does seem weird, but there's also this weird fact that these are people who are used to always getting their way, and then when suddenly they know that there's no way they can get out of it, there's nothing they can do, and they will have tarnished everything.
General population prison.
So you're telling me
they have nothing left.
Out how to get Trump to go to prison? That
if we would have.
I'm just asking the question for the audience.
I think he would have. I think he's too much of a narcissist. I think he would spend all of his days doing everything he could to try to, I don't want to say rebuild his name, but he would spend all of his time trying to build up his name again or something like that. I think he's far too much of a narcissist to commit suicide.
Yeah. And in the end, like we may never know, but also if the New York Attorney General is ever actually legitimately able to put together a real case, like the real tax evasion case, the Al Capone tax evasion case, like that could be a real thing. But like that, the Trump organization, the Trump thing, capitalistically speaking, could be grossly negligent when it comes to taxes and stuff. That could be a real thing in the future. We'll see if anything happens there, and we'll obviously report along as that comes through. But I mean, pickle bacon fries? What?
Bacon pickle fry.
Who is doing this?
I've not tried this yet. But here is pickles wrapped in bacon.
Okay. I've had fried pickles before. They're not like
fried, they're baked.
Well, yeah. That's cool.
But yes. I don't know if this is I don't know. All I know is that I have not tried this yet. My daughter and I have this on our agenda. This is not a very healthy snack. But my quick save for the week, 100% is this very delicious looking appetizer.
That's interesting.
That you could do with your friends.
As a person who has tried to wrap things in bacon and fry them multiple times, you're going to need to flippy. But in all reality, I don't see any reason why that wouldn't work. That looks pretty freaking slick. That's cool.
I mean, I could even try it in my air fryer,
Ooh, I got a convection oven, better. So like, oh man, I did a pork loin with the convection running, so like it basically air fried everything. Oh my goodness, it was awesome.
Yeah, I've done that. I've not done that one, but I
wrapped a pork loin with bacon. I'm a crazy person.
I agree.
I have had bacon ice cream.
I've had a bacon donut before, and I'll tell you what, I don't like donuts a lot. I was very skeptical, but I had a
maple
and whiskey
syrup
glazed donut.
Bacon donut. I've had them.
No, whiskey,
awesome.
maple whiskey.
Maple whiskey.
Wow. Oh my god.
Are we having like a weird Canadian moment right now?
Are we what?
Are we having a weird Canadian moment right now?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys eat a lot of bacon out there? Or is it Canadian bacon, which is just like ham for normal people?
Oh my god.
See, I was always under the impression that ham was like what the Americans considered bacon, and then like the bacon strips, that was considered Canadian bacon.
Well, all I know is that the fact that we're talking bacon and Below Fray is still enjoying the fact that they found us and is enjoying us in the YouTube comments. Welcome, sir or ma'am or human. We appreciate you guys.
Welcome, fellow meat popsicle.
Yes, meat popsicle. Yeah.
And no, we don't approve of eating meat popsicles unless it's bacon. If it's bacon, we approve.
I've had bacon ice cream, and it is no joke. I highly recommend it.
All right, Keith, what's yours for the day?
Mine is the laziest quick save I think any of us could ever do.
No.
Yep. No, it is. No, it is.
I'm simply shilling out a podcast episode that I was on, Mind of a Skeptical Leftist. It is run by Corey Johnson, formerly of the Brainstorm podcast. I was actually a guest on that show several years ago, representing my old show because my old co-host couldn't join in on that night. She had an emergency that kept her away, but I was able to go on and rant my face off as I am wont to do. So Corey invited me on and asked me to come talk about Canadian. He's also a middle Canadianer. He's from Saskatchewan, which is basically Alberta, but
More
less
baseball-y?
population dense, basically. Yeah, so it was a great time. I'm in the works to get him on our show. He and I have been chatting back and forth. We just are working on figuring out dates and all of that work for him because he also has a life and things that he does. So look forward to that in the future. But in the meantime, go check out Mind of a Skeptical Leftist. There is the podcast or podcatcher link provided in the notes. There's also a YouTube link that I've tweeted out as well. And I can update our notes to reflect that as well if need be. But yeah, go give it a watch, give it a listen. I think it's some pretty fun podcasting, if I do say so myself. I mean, not as great as here, but I have to say that.
It's good. And this is mine. This is mine. This is my quick save. This is the jerky flippy offy motorcycle mopedy people. And so bicycle guy says, you know what, I'm gonna shoot fireworks at you until you fall off your motorcycle. I was in my car, or I was in my car. I was in my bed just laughing out loud at the fact that like there's tubes on this guy's bike. He's
done this
before.
out
more than once.
This is like I mean, just a full on like.
I mean, like I said, it's a great way to get uninvited from the BMX.
I don't recognize the road.
I would like to bet it's Russia.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess it's some place along the narrows to bike down. Like, just chaos, insane. I don't know. Like, if you're gonna be like one of those crazy bicycle people and you're gonna talk the game, that guy's walking the walk right there in whatever country he's shooting the fireworks off. But I don't know. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life.
My old man,
just too much. The toughest bicyclist cannon launcher guy. And it was pretty cool. And
my old man used to be really. My old man used to really be into like remote control model cars, airplanes, and all of that shit. And he happened to take his old remote control Jeep out. But what he had done is he had kind of rigged a little platform similar to that, so his Jeep could actually launch little rockets. And this was the inaugural and last voyage he ever took doing this. And what he did was, as he's driving around, it ended up hitting a bump, and one of the rockets fired. Well, there was a model or a remote-controlled aircraft meetup going on a few hundred yards away. And, well, as a remote-controlled A-10 Warthog was trying to take off, it got hit by one of his rockets and stopped flying promptly.
Well, I don't know. I guess sucks to be your old man. It's like when I was a kid, off the record, when I was not a kid and somebody else was a kid, they used to shoot bottle rockets at cop cars from their friends'
my goodness,
in their bushes, and he's ran more than one time through his backyard and his neighbor's yard to avoid the cops. Which you would think in fairness, because we were in front of a house, they would have just gone out to the front door and been like, "Ma'am, I don't know who the fuck's in your front yard, but they're shooting fireworks at us." Now, I grew up in Ohio where it's legal, so whatever. But still, you would think a little bit. The cop would have been a little bit smarter. But I also almost got arrested. Hey, remember those bottle rockets? My buddy and I decided we wanted to launch like 7 of those off at one time, so we had all those like large batteries in a backpack, and then we were carrying some in our arms. And like we got a cop pulled us over and asked us what we were doing because they thought we were gonna like blow up a school. We had like 20 rocket engines and only one rocket, and we were honestly just gonna hook all the rockets up and just shoot the rockets off. And then we had that and we got lucky because the cop turned around to go back to call our parents, and like we dropped the batteries and just ran, just like right, because we're like, we don't want to go to jail. Fuck that. Not that anybody should ever do that, and don't teach your kids how to do that. Follow the law and be good citizens. But anyway, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We've had an amazing time. We'll be back next week with another episode of Cellar Door Skeptics right here, 10 p.m. Have a good night, everyone.